background of the listing agent that you're working with to sell your house? Do they know about marketing? Do they know about positioning? Do they know how to reach consumers? Do they know how to work with and reach other agents? All of those things are really important. And they're really important when you're a listing agent working with a client. Wondering what my background might be like and why I bring this up? I thought so. I recently was interviewed by the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing. The Institute is a membership-based organization whereby agents have to be certified, go through a lengthy training process, and then they also have to sell a certain amount of luxury real estate to be a member of this organization. Now, in this organization, we network, we meet each other, we talk about best practices, we talk about ways to position luxury real estate, and we talk about the listings that we have with each other so that we can share the property with as many people as possible. Well, the Institute got word that I had done a 4-part video series on a report that they put together with my brokerage, Coldwell Banker. The report is called The Report, Luxury Market Insights, and it covered the past 2 years, year and a half of the pandemic and what happened in the luxury market, what happened in the luxury space when all of real estate was really just popping on all cylinders. Did the same happen with the luxury market? And so that's what the report addressed. So I took that report and turned it into a 4-part series. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll link the playlist inside this video. But the Institute reached out to me because they wanted to interview me for their podcast. Their podcast is called A State of Mind. And they also have a corresponding YouTube channel. And they wanted to show other agents how I had taken this content and turned it into content for you, my audience on YouTube. The initial part of this interview was about me and my business, why I do what I do, what are the skills that I have to do what I do, what makes me the agent that I am. And as a viewer of my YouTube channel, as someone who I hope is watching me a lot, you might wonder the same thing. Who is Sherri Ann? What does she do? And how did she come to be an agent? And why does she like what she does? And what makes her an authority to give us all of this information? So let's take a listen.
Welcome to A State of Mind, a podcast series all about motivating, inspiring, and educating you in the art of selling luxury real estate. This is Tammy Sims, trainer for the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing. Today, we are pleased to have with us Sherri Ann Green, an award-winning realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty. In 2019, she was recognized as one of the top 1,000 out of 50,000 agents and is a member of the International President's Elite, which recognizes the top 3% of Coldwell Banker agents internationally. Sherri Ann has a background in marketing, communications, contract management, and negotiation. Her previous career focus as a marketing executive won her the Adweek Project Isaac Award for Innovation and an inaugural DC Inno 50 on Fire Award, recognition as one of the most prominent figures in the marketing and advertising industry. A 28-year resident of the DC area, Sherri Ann's love of the arts, architecture, culture, and design, which influence her vision for real estate, is evidenced by her support of and memberships in various organizations. She's a volunteer for Georgetown Village, board member for the Friends of the Georgetown Waterfront Park, and board member for the Coldwell Banker Cares Foundation. Sherri Ann has created a video series based upon the Luxury Market Insights report that's produced for Coldwell Banker Global Luxury by the Institute, and it really caught our attention. Sherri Ann, welcome to the podcast.
Tammy, thank you so much.
We are so happy to have you here.
It is great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's give our audience a little more information about where your market area is and what types of properties you typically work with. So you're in the Washington, D.C. area. Tell us what parts of that you work in.
That's right. I live in the heart of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And most of my business comes from D.C. proper, but I also cover and am licensed in Northern Virginia. And if you look at a map, we all are very close, just over the river. Sometimes we call it over the moat to be funny. But the majority of my business is in the district, and the district is broken up into 4 quadrants that all stem out from the capital: Northwest, Southwest, Northeast, Southeast. I do most of my business in what's called Northwest Washington. And my main focus neighborhoods would be Georgetown, Foggy Bottom, the West End, DuPont Circle. We have a lot of funny names, but it's a beautiful city.
They are memorable, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, in those areas, what types of properties do you typically work with?
Certainly. So, being a city, a lot of my work has been with condos. That's probably 60% of my business. As you can imagine, a city, we have to fit a lot of people into a very small space, especially the district, which is a smaller footprint than other cities. And then we have a lot of row homes. So that's probably 35% of my business. And somebody who doesn't live here might think of a row home as a townhome. So it's a home that sits right next to its neighbor. But ours are old and before HOAs really became popular to make them townhomes. And you are responsible for all of it: ceiling, roof, foundation, walls, even though they touch your neighbor. So I use the old historic word of row home or row house versus a more modern word of townhome. And then we do have standalone properties as well. And that's probably about 4% of my business.
Excellent. And I really appreciate that very thorough description of the row house concept, which some of our audience will be familiar with, but others I'm sure will
Sure.
appreciate that education.
We're an old city. 1751, Georgetown was formed. So we've got some really old, beautiful historic properties.
Well, all the better to market with, I would say.
Absolutely. People do love seeing what they look like, no doubt.
So we've shared a little bit about your general background prior to becoming a realtor. Tell us, how long have you been a real estate professional?
Certainly. I was licensed in 2016. So just about 6 to 7 years ago. And I came, as you mentioned, from an advertising and marketing background. Actually, the last role that I had at the agency, I was the business development director. So a lot of what I did there, really, I do now. And if you think about it, contract management, business development, marketing, communications, public relations. How do we talk about a product? How do we talk about ourselves? We are the product to start with, right? When we're doing business development with a new client, a marketing presentation is really an interview every time. And so I had a very long career there that I loved, and it was very fun, but it was time for me to be an entrepreneur. It was time for me to have my own business. And real estate had always been sort of in the back of my mind. I had bought and sold several personal properties, and each time I sort of analyzed the process. What was great? What would I do differently? Gosh, I wish I had known this. Why didn't somebody tell me that? Or whatever it was. And so that really became the what do I do next answer. And it was something that I loved. And I love talking about homes, which you should never get into real estate because you love homes. But but I had all of the other, skill set from business development, pitching myself, presenting my company, presenting a product, and then managing a project from start to finish. And being in a service business, which is really what, we are.
Absolutely. And what a perfect set of skills and assets to bring into the real estate profession. I think that's fantastic. So tell me, do you work as a solo agent or do you have a team?
I am a solo agent. I have been from the start. Lucky enough to have a really great sphere of influence, having lived here for 28 years, being at the same agency for 17 before I did this. I knew a lot of people, and I think that really helped to sort of launch my career. People had worked with me or known me in some sort of capacity in the industry or as a friend. And so that sort of transferred into them trusting me, I think, faster than if I had just started out of college, if you will.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And I have to say that there's a great deal of respect for real estate professionals who are doing it solo these days when
Yeah.
there's a lot to it. So thank you so much, Sherri Ann, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. This was great fun. I enjoyed talking about it with you today.
Hopefully, through that interview, you get a little bit of insight into me, who I am, what's my background, and why I do what I do, and why I love what I do. The skill set that I bring to being an agent
is really something that's unique. I have a marketing and advertising background. I have a background in communications and a background in negotiating. And all of those things come into play every day with what I do with my clients, whether I'm the listing agent or the buyer's agent. So hopefully through that interview, you got to see a little bit about me and why I have all the knowledge to get to bring to you on my channel. And hopefully you found that interesting. And hopefully, if you haven't subscribed yet, you will now.